This is the Business Storytelling Show with Christoph Trapp. Name a top 20 storytelling podcast and a top 5% podcast globally. Christoph chats with thought leaders and experts to share tips and tricks that can help you tell your company's stories better to drive business results. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, live streamed on major social media channels, and part of the DB&A television network. Available on most U.S. television sets and streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire. Here's Christoph with today's episode. Let's go.
Let's go, business storytellers. Hey, how's everyone doing? Today we want to talk about math. Don't leave yet, but it is actually content performance, revenue ops, whatever. We don't talk about revenue ops too often here, but content performance is about the numbers. Because if you can't do math, if you can't figure out, how much more reach do we want to get? How much more do we have to increase in different areas on our website, for example? How are you going to know that it's working? So it is about the numbers. I certainly did not go into journalism and now content strategy to have to do math. But it's the world we live in. Just recently finished the Rule of 26. You can check that out if you're watching on Amazon. We are live on Amazon. If you are a live streamer, it does appear there's an issue with the latest iOS update, but apparently I'm getting it to work. So if you're watching this live, something to keep in mind. If you're listening on the podcast version, hopefully they have it figured out by then. So today we want to talk about the Rule of 26. What does that mean? Where do we have to increase website traffic, website conversions? How does that look? And why do we have to worry about math? Seriously. All right. Michael Buzinski, he is the author of the Rule of 26. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Boom.
Boom. Oh, you got that better going than I have. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Christoph?
I'm doing okay, but I'll be honest, math is not my favorite topic. But I just finished the book a few days ago, did an Amazon product review video as well. So tell us about, what is the Rule of 26? Why do we care, and how does it help us?
So the Rule of 26 is actually a tool to not have to do as much math when it comes to our website marketing, and actually created the Rule of 26 to help service-centric business owners understand what metrics in their website marketing actually move revenue needles. And it came through this process of trying to boil down the dozens upon dozens of KPIs that digital marketers like to tout all over the internet and to their clients, and really just kind of befuddle them and make them really lost in what's going on with their website marketing. And so the Rule of 26 simply states that if you increase your unique traffic by 26%, your conversion rate by 26%, and the average revenue per client coming from your website by 26%, you will double the revenue coming from your website. That is a leveraged or a compounded output, because 26 times 3 is not 100.
Well, see, so it makes math easier. Now, so if you increase your traffic by 26%, there's certainly things you have to do, right? That's organic traffic. I guess that could be paid traffic too, but that can come at a hefty price tag too. So how do we even? So a lot of these things that we're talking about on the show constantly, including how do we create better content? How do we get people to come to the website? How do we get people to stick around? How do we get people to do things?
Right.
Those are important things when it comes to achieving anything close to the Rule of 26.
Right. Well, and that's what the book's about, right? By page 22, you've got the Rule of 26 down. Okay. I do not labor the rule itself. And the majority of the book is then dedicated to the tactics in which to increase each of those KPIs. And they're very practical. Yes, we do discuss paid traffic and how to approach paid traffic so that you're not wasting a lot of money. We're looking at ways to get quick wins, because 26% isn't all that much. Most websites for small businesses are not getting more than, say, 100 to 200 unique human visitors a week, right? So if you're only looking for 25 to 50 more visitors a week, maybe 200 in a total month, that is not an insurmountable task, right? And when we talk about conversion rates, if you're at 1% conversion rate, you're only looking for 1/4% more conversions than you are right now. And that's what really helps people use the rule of 26, because one, it's simple math, and two, we're not talking about moving mountains to get somewhere.
Well, I was going to ask you that. I mean, it is simple math in theory, but 26% of 1% conversion rate, which I think is, probably what a lot of people can see. That's really not a ton. But are we talking about, so if you want to increase your traffic by 26%,
Mhm.
we're talking about your target audience traffic, right? Not
Yes.
I mean, if you increase your traffic because one article took off, but let's say half of it is, your target audience, and the other half is just people who are not, who are finding it, but they're not really going to buy from you because they're just interested in the topic. We're
Right.
talking about those people, right? Not
Right.
everybody and their brother.
Right. And we talk about like making sure that your content is specific to your target audience and put it where your target audience is most likely hanging out, right? Understanding the client value journey and understanding how they go through their process of doing research about your service, because 68% of all of your traffic is going to be coming from a search engine. And or I take that back. 68% of all purchases start with a search query. Sorry, I got my dog in the background. And so we really make sure that you don't put your stuff out in front of everyone willy nilly. I mean, free traffic is free traffic, but if it's bad traffic, it's not doing you any good.
And just to add to that, I mean, even organic traffic is not free because somebody has to create the content to drive people to your website, to keep people engaged and
Right.
to even show up. Now, we do talk about driving traffic a lot. We talk about content creation a lot. We talk about putting our audience first a lot. All those, some of the, I don't know if I want to call them standard topics for shows like this one. But I think what we don't talk about quite as often is how do we improve the conversion rate? And of course, I can already see some people screaming, oh, let's more pop ups, more calls to action, more whatever, more annoying crap. Give us your tips. What are the best strategies to increase that conversion rate by that 26%?
So one of the first things that we talk about, and you touched on it, which is putting the client first, is huge. And you could talk about that for hours, because it's not just a matter of putting yourself in their shoes. It's a matter of finding out what really drives your best type of client to take action, right? So nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care. So if you're have a website that's starting with just you and talking about your accolades and how awesome you are, you're really just turning people off because they really don't care. What they're there for is to either solve a problem or attain a dream. And as a service based business, they're the only two things you can do for potential clients. Period. End of story. I haven't heard anybody else tell me otherwise so far. So you need to start with their problem and identify it, or paint the picture of the dream they have first, so that you're telling them, without telling them, that you understand what they're there for. Why are they there? What problem are they trying to solve? And you understand that. Okay. Then the second one is to put forth a simple explanation of how to solve that problem or attain that dream. Now they can see themselves overcoming that issue or attaining what they're looking to get, right? And where they want to be. From there, then you have to create the call to action and get them something enticing for them to want to engage with you. And depending on your service, some people are in triage and other people are in a long sales cycle. So, that's going to be different everywhere. But it's not until people ask to know more about you that you have permission to really talk about you. So I really sum that up into take all of the I, we, and us out of your website and start putting the you and your as it pertains to your perfect type of client onto your homepage specifically.
What's interesting to me is that we still have to mention that. I mean, that is not a new strategy to get rid of the we and the I. I mean, we've talked about that, I don't know, maybe decades, but, talk about how can you help people? How can you make it useful for them, helpful for them? So what's your definition of a conversion?
So conversions are different for everybody, right? Some people might be pushing a book. And so they just want you to buy their book because that is a conversion to them. You are getting an opportunity to show what your authority is and that you can dive deeper into that expertise. Other people, they just want your email, and then they can put you into a email marketing drip system because you need to trust them, and to do that they need to build that trust through value in advance. Other people might be signing up for a webinar. Other people, they might not consider a conversion until they get a form filled out to set an appointment, or a phone call or click to call from their mobile phone into the office for more information. Did I lose you?
No, for some reason the unmute button didn't work for a second. I don't know why.
Okay.
So I'm still here. We're back
Yeah.
from commercial break. So when you talk about a conversion, though, right? I mean, I didn't hear you say that's directly a sale. So somebody's signing up for your email list, somebody's signing up for whatever to learn more. That's a
Mm-hmm.
conversion. And some of those people won't buy from you, right? I mean,
Right.
it's like that's why the funnel. I know some people argue, forget about it, but that's why the funnel looks like that.
Right.
And
Yeah. And that's
so those numbers
and
are
that's
still
what.
pretty small.
Oh, go ahead.
Those numbers are still pretty small, right? If I'm increasing my website traffic by 26 people or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I only
Mm-hmm.
have 100,
Mm-hmm.
and then, a couple more conversions, how does that translate into that much more revenue down the road?
Well, if you look, so when people consider a sign up for their conversion, they have a predictable close rate that goes behind it, right? So if I'm bringing in 4 new people from my opt-ins, right? And I know out of every 4 people who sign up, I get 1 sale. Okay. So they have a 25% close rate, right? So to increase that, all they need is 4 more conversions to increase their revenue, because they're going to get 25% more closes. So for every 4 of those, you're getting there. So it's just a compounded math problem that says, hey, listen, for every 100 people, you get this much revenue because from that conversion rate, because the conversion rate follows into your close rate. Okay. So if I increase my traffic and everything else stays the same, if I increase it by 26%, I'm getting 26% of the back end. If I start with conversion rate, increasing my conversion rate with the same amount of traffic, then all things considered, I will get 26% more sales on the back end, because I'm getting 26% more opportunities to sell with the same close rate.
Got it. Now, of course, you're also the president of Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and you focus on service-based business. I know the book talks about service-based businesses. Now, what is that like? My local plumber? Like, what is a service-based business in your definition?
Right. So we're going to be renaming the subtitle of this book to Service-Centric Businesses. So it is any business that is offering serviced humans serving humans, right? You have software as a service out there. So anytime you sign up for a software software that does a service for you as a software as a service. Service centric is going to be people serving people, doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, accountants, you name it. If they're serving other people, either B2C or B2B, we are helping them, because really when you're serving, the sales cycle can be different, like the length of it, but what it takes to get there are not a lot of differentiators between getting cold traffic to warm traffic to the conversion.
Interesting, but that's a wide-ranging area, right? I mean, I guess sometimes we've talked about. I mean, I said my local plumber, but that's how I would pick. Maybe not a plumber because I used the same plumber for a long time. But if I need a new service, that's what I do. I go to Google, and if they don't even have a website, right, and nobody recommended anybody, then the person with the website, and a good website, right, they probably will win. At least out of the gate, right? At some point, the service has to hold up to what they're promising on the website. Obviously,
there's actually a
but
statistic on that
go ahead.
that says, like, so when you're looking for a local service, like a plumber near me, and those folks that are in the top 5 to 10 on the Google Maps, whoever they click on, those clicks, 74% of those clicks contact that business within 24 hours. So if you don't have a website that helps you get into those top 10, you are not getting 2/3 of all of the buying traffic out there, the potential sales out there, because 2/3, actually in consumer, it's even higher. It's like in the 80s and 90 percentile that go to the internet and specifically Google to find those types of services.
I mean, that's just unbelievable. That I'm baffled when companies can't figure out how to put up a website. I mean, I know you can spend a pretty penny doing it, but you certainly can do it relatively cheap too if you don't want to have control over every little pixel and every little bitty thing to change along the way.
Right.
Now, we talked about we kind of blushed over the first of the 3 items. The second one, I think we dug into it quite deeply here. What was the third one again?
Average revenue per client.
Okay, talk about that. How do you increase that? I mean, this is actually, what comes to my mind is, I saw a thing one time and it said something like, so if you want to make 100,000 for the year, you either need one client that pays you 100,000, or 4 clients that pay you 25,000,
right,
or 3 33,000, or 100 that pay you 1,000.
right.
So I mean, it's kind of like that, right? I mean, one way you can do it is you can raise your prices. But what would
That's
you
one way.
recommend?
Well, I mean, we first you start there. There's a lot of service-based businesses out there who do not charge enough, especially in this day and age. And so one of the things that we talk about is, when's the last time you raised your prices? With inflation being at 3% year over year, and you wait 5 years, you're 15% behind inflation. So you're actually working just as hard for less money, because that $100,000 now only worth about $85,000, right? And so you would have to serve more people at the same price to be able to have the same buying power. So the first thing is to increase that. The second thing is to look at who your most profitable clients are. Not all business is good business. And so we have to take a look at the 80-20 rule and say, what are the 20% of clients taking up 80% of our time, or sucking out 80% of our resources for the same price as the person right next to him getting the same service? It's paying the same amount of money. So one of the things we look at there is to really identify that out of your current clientele, who is killing your bandwidth, keeping you from being able to serve more people with the same amount of staff and the same amount of resources. That right there could probably increase your average revenue per client, because it's not just a matter of bringing in $100, it's bringing in $100 profitably, right? Because if you bring in 26% more revenue, but you spend 27% more, you're losing money taking on those clients. And so that's like one of the first things we do. And we actually work backwards in my firm in starting with ARCP because it is something we can immediately increase. The second thing is if you're already at a competitive price where you feel like this is the highest you're going to be able to do, then it's a matter of building value, building more value in the services you already provide, or expanding the amount of service or the quality of service. So creating a higher tier of service, or building more value on related services that go with your core services to the same clients you're already serving.
Well, and sometimes the clients that pay the least, they expect the most service, which is kind of interesting too. And the other thing that I find interesting is when companies charge by hour,
Mm-hmm.
and I get it. I know why people do it. And I know we've had this debate on here. I'd be interested to hear your opinion on this too. But, I'm having a guy come by and do some things at the house,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one package for like 6 different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I said to my, but one of the tasks is to basically inspect something and figure out what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of that. So I don't actually know what that line item is, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
line items.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to my wife, I'm like, that's actually kind of expensive. But then I'm thinking, but I don't know what to even look at. Like I can look at it and say, yeah, there it is. That's the thing. But I couldn't tell you if that's how it's supposed to look. I couldn't tell you if that's wrong. I couldn't tell you anything.
Right.
So, especially for a guy like me, right, who
Mm-hmm.
is a knowledge worker, there
Mm-hmm.
is value in people just knowing the answer. And I think I find that very interesting sometimes when company get hung up on the whole thing of, oh, we charge this much by hour. And I'm like, that doesn't even take me an hour. That takes me 15 minutes. But you couldn't have done it in 15 minutes because you don't even know what to look at. You don't even
Right.
know what the thing is.
Right.
So how do you feel about that commentary?
I think that value-based pricing is exactly the way to go. We used to be hourly. We were very traditional creative agency up to a few years ago. And when we transitioned into a digital centric firm, things got very productized is basically what you're talking about. And so when we do something, it is not about the hours we spend, it's about the outcome that we provide. And in our business, it's about that outcome is usually based on how much ROI we're getting too, right? So we're going to say, hey, we're going to give you these metrics on the output, but that has to then translate to revenue for you so that you can see return on your investment of our services, right? So I agree that the plumber that comes in, even if you knew their hourly rate, it wouldn't matter because you don't have the tools nor the expertise to do the repair that you brought them in for. I actually had a pipe burst in my basement and I fixed it myself the first time with the pad. I ran down to the hardware store and bought myself a patch and patched it up and made it all good, looking good and all that good stuff. And about 3 weeks later, it started leaking again. And I'm like, gosh darn it. I'm gonna have to get a plumber. Plumber came in. Half an hour later, he's got a new section of the pipe. It's all soldered properly.
Yep.
It's everything's looking gorgeous. It's tight. $250 a bill. And I'm like, whew, that's steep. But then I looked at him like, if I would have just called that person the first time, I would have saved the 3 hours that I'm worth, $250 to $350, depending on what I'm doing at the point. I would have saved myself $500 to $600 worth of my time just calling them and not worrying about it.
Yeah. Plus, you don't really know what to do, anyways. I mean, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to look at. And I think that's
Yeah.
sometimes we forget about that. Why? So tell people here in the last 2.5 minutes, what's Buzzworthy integrated marketing and how do people work with you and why the focus on service-based businesses?
So Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing is a website marketing, digital marketing firm. And we work specifically with service-centric businesses because I love working with people serving people. When we talk about the individuality of businesses or the competitive advantage of businesses, and we insert the human nature, that makes it's just an awesome way to really serve the community, right? Because I can go out and do e-commerce and we could talk about numbers all day. Well, numbers get boring after a while. It's like, okay, we're just worried about the next 0.1% of whatever we're trying to squeeze out of whatever metric. To me, that's not fun. But being able to understand and translate somebody's passion for what they provide to their community is much more interesting to me. And I can translate that passion to my team. And so I find team members who work in my company that are just as passionate about helping people realize the entrepreneurial dream, get that financial freedom, help them work in their business and not on their business. And so that's why we chose service centric.
And of course, if you have a good website, you can automate some of those things, right? I mean, people can do things. And how do you feel about, I think I blogged about this actually, on even automating the response, right? Now we're just talking about home projects, but I had to get a vent cleaned. And one company allowed me to actually just book an appointment, like literally, like for tomorrow. And even when I had a project with Lowe's, they literally just let me book an appointment. What role does automation play?
Automation plays a very important role only when you are trying to save the client time. I do not believe that your nurturing process should be fully automated. There are parts of it like an email drip, when you're trying to, if you had a tripwire to where somebody opted in for something and then you're trying to warm them up into taking the first action, maybe. But after that, if you're service centric, you want to talk to people. You want humans interacting with humans because we do business with people we like and trust. And automation is not going to deliver the likability or trustability of pretty much any company.
It's true. I do use automation for some of my campaigns, obviously. But then when people reply and they ask me a question, it's me responding. It's not somebody else. It's not automated at that point. Michael, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing your insights.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review our show on your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to share this episode with your network.